to the Godly Playroom at First United Church in Wetaskiwin, Alberta. My name is Ruth Lummox, and it is a delight to be with you again in this time of wondering and storying in this in-between season of Lent as we get ready to enter into the mystery that is Easter. And outside, the earth is getting ready for spring and for melting and greening and warming and nesting. So many changes going on all around us. Sometimes we need to just stop and rest or savor or notice the beauty, to smell those fresh smells of spring, and to be in one another's company and with the Holy who gathers us in. So I invite you to take a few deep breaths, to maybe find your comfortable spot. If you need to pause the video and go and get your candle, or find something that you might like to do later with your art response, or maybe for a feast. And whenever you're ready, come on back. I feel, every time I go for a walk these mornings, the birds are singing. So I want to sing a little bit today. And I want to remind us about God's presence. It's a song that we sing often, and some of you will know the words. They're quite simple. Like a rock, God is under our feet. Like the starry night sky, God is over our head. Like the sun on the horizon, God is ever before. Like a river runs to ocean, our home is in God evermore. And there are actions that go with it. So I'm going to sing and do the actions, and you join in when you feel comfortable. We'll do it through 3 times, twice with words and actions, and the third time with just the actions. So here we go. Go. Like a rock, God is under our feet. Like the starry night sky, God is over our head. Like the sun on the horizon, God is ever before. Like a river runs to ocean, our home is in God evermore. Like a rock, God is under our feet. Like the starry night sky, God is over our head. Like the sun on the horizon, God is ever before. Like a river runs to ocean, our home is in God evermore. Everybody can handle this key. Are you ready? Once, there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And the more they followed him, the more they wondered who he was. And so one time they just had to ask, who are you? And one time, when they asked him that question, he said, I am the light. Well, let's just enjoy that light. So much more light outside each day. I'm going to put this candle back on the shelf though, so that we can enjoy it without having to worry about setting anything on fire. It might even be warm enough outside soon to have a wiener roast. Could almost see our fire pit the other day. Well, a story. A story from this time of the color purple. This season of Lent. As we get ready to celebrate the mystery that is Easter. And we're learning more each week about the one who is Easter. Once each year, the people of God go to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. To remember how God brought the people through the waters into freedom. Jesus has gone to Passover many times in Jerusalem. Sometimes with his family, and sometimes with his friends. But this year is different. This year, Jesus knows his work is to come close to people. And when people come close to Jesus, lives change. But not everyone likes the changes that Jesus brings. This year is also different. Because this year, Jesus is one of the rabbis teaching in the temple. And people come to him with all kinds of questions. And he tells them parables and stories, and he asks lots of questions. But sometimes he just needs to slip away for a time of prayer or rest or a meal with friends. Today's story takes place in Bethany, which is just outside of Jerusalem. Jesus had gone for supper at Simon the leper's house. And while he sat at table with some of his friends, a woman came. And she cracked open a jar of very expensive perfume. And she poured it over Jesus' head. And some of his friends were very angry with her. They said to Jesus, "Why did you let her do that? What a waste. We could have sold that perfume and used the money to help others." But Jesus said, "Let her alone. She has done a good thing. She knows what is about to happen. And truly, I tell you, wherever the good news of God's love is told around the world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." I wonder what happened next. I wonder what part of this story you liked best. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have all the story that we need. I wonder, what part of this story is most important? I wonder what part of this story is especially for you today. Or where you are in this story. You can pause the video if you want to do some more wondering. Or you might already have an idea what you'd like to do in response to this story. I was wondering what that perfume smelled like. I can almost imagine. But so much perfume makes me sneeze. I'm glad I'm just imagining. I wonder what the woman felt like. Going into that room full of people, if she knew anybody, or perhaps she only knew who Jesus was. And what prompted her to give such a lavish gift? I wonder if you've ever been that person who has been told to stop doing what you're doing. That's stupid. It's a waste. Don't do that. And I wonder who stood up for you. Or perhaps you've been the one to stand up for somebody else, to say, leave them alone, quit picking on them, that's not fair. This is a good thing that they are doing. Sometimes we react to people that are different or situations that are different just by digging in our heels and being grumpy. Sometimes it's hard to trust that someone else might know more than we do. Jesus said, leave her alone. She knows what's going to happen. I wonder what she knew that the others did not. I wonder, when you've given a lavish or extravagant gift, or what keeps you from giving that way of yourself, perhaps. You can pause the video if you want and get out your art materials to cut and paste or color or paint or shape or create something as you continue to wonder about this story. I got thinking about this story and the one that we heard last week about the woman who gave all that she had. And in some ways, this is another story about somebody giving everything. And the story of Holy Week, of Jesus, the mystery that is Easter, is another story about giving all that one has. Sometimes that's scary and we want to hold back or keep it to ourselves. And yet, if we ever do give that way, we discover we get so much back in return. So maybe my work today is another song. Let's see if I can remember all the words for this one. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you'll end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many that roll all over the floor. For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you'll end up having more. So let's go dancing till the break of day, and if there's a piper we can pay. But love is something if you give it away, you'll end up having more. Oh, it's just like a magic penny, hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many that roll all over the floor. For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you'll end up having more. I'm going to put the story away. And then we'll share some time in prayer. So if you want more work time, or you have some other songs you'd like to sing, stop the video and go ahead and enjoy that. And then come on back when you're ready. So we remember Bethany, that place just outside of Jerusalem, where Jesus often went. And there was the perfume, great price. Almost like a pearl of great price, maybe. And the woman who brought her gift to that meal and shared it with Jesus. I wonder if he could still smell it when he rode into Jerusalem on that Palm Sunday morning with the branches waving and people shouting Hosanna. Some of the friends with whom Jesus sat to eat. I wonder if he could still smell it amidst the smells of Passover meals being prepared. The unleavened bread, the bitter tears of salt water, and the herbs. Heady smell of wine. Simon, the leper. Lepers weren't typically people that anyone would want to come close to, let alone eat with. And yet, he was friend enough with Jesus to have him come to dinner. That most amazing man, who perhaps still smelled a bit of that fragrance the night he was arrested in the garden. And in all that unfolded unfolded in that next few days? Did he remember the women's gifts? The fragrance, the generosity? Did that inspire him to give his own? And on this way to Jerusalem, a journey we make every year, in the time of the color purple. You can take a moment now for your own prayers. You can join us in prayer. You could pause the video and go find yourself some feast items. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Even just some fruit, some water, some crackers. The feast is made in the company we keep. But before we eat together, we share our prayers. And we've been doing some praying in color. Maybe you remember me mentioning this book called Praying with Color. It invited us to do some doodling, and so all different kinds of shapes and connectors and different ways of praying for people we love or people we are concerned about, things that are going on in the world around us, perhaps something for which we're thankful. So, I brought with me, in case you're having troubles figuring out some doodling, I brought with me some shapes out of the kitchen. So, thinking about all those meals that get shared out of the kitchen here at our church. And I think about the men's group, who often makes a great beef or ham supper. And so there's that meat fork that sometimes you put in and use for carving, and sometimes you use to scoop out the meat. So I'm just going to trace that shape. And that men's group is called the AOTS. But I'm going to pray for everybody who feeds people. Whether you're a cook at home, or in a restaurant, or you're a server, or someone who helps prepare takeout food for other people, or maybe you're a farmer that grows food. All of those people, or the people in the processing and packaging and killing plants where they create all those things that show up on our grocery store shelves so that we can make meals. And pray for those people. And I found this, which is a flipper of some sort. So I'm going to trace that shape. And it's quite interesting. Flippers come in all shapes. Some are kind of square or rectangular, and this one has holes in it. Which makes an interesting pattern. You could kind of make that pattern anywhere across your doodle. I'm going to think about the pancake breakfasts that sometimes we've had together at youth group or sleepovers, and the pancakes and sausage lunches that sometimes we've had. And Shrove Tuesday, that pancake supper that many communities and churches celebrate at the beginning of Lent. And I pray for all those people who volunteer. So all the volunteers. They're often unseen, and they show up early and they go home late, and they get all the jobs that nobody else wants to do. But they keep us fed in so many ways. I pray for the volunteers. And then I found this thing, which wiser people than me probably know an actual name for. I'm going to call it a pie lifter. Oh, thinking about pie. And we've just come past Pi Day, which is the International Day to remember our LGBTQ, 2S neighbors. And most people like pie. But I want to pray especially for the LGBTQ to us folk. The folks who sometimes find it hard to just be themselves. And you have to put up with all kinds of nasty comments like the woman did in our story today. And who really need us to just say, leave them alone. Let them be. So for all those people who struggle, who are bullied or criticized, and for the people who stand up for them, or intervene, or inspire them to speak out and be themselves. Sometimes we call those folk allies. So we pray for all of those people. And then I found one of these, which I think would be a serving spoon, sometimes called a sieve spoon. It has holes too. Always makes me think of Toy Story and the spotted pig. But this is a spoon for serving vegetables so that the juice can run through and we keep the good things on the spoon. I think I want to call that wisdom. Right? There's a prayer about giving ourselves the grace to accept the things we can't change and the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so the wisdom to know what to keep and what to let go. Something we can all work on, I think, but I know I especially need to work on that one. Sometimes I take on too much. And then there isn't room on the spoon for the things that I really want. So I pray for wisdom to know what to keep and what to let go. I wonder for whom or about what you will offer prayer today. Amen. Well, I hope you're hungry, because now I am. All this talk about food. And there isn't much here for feast. Just a few things. But I'll make sure I do this because my hands have been all over candles and stories and markers and a glass of water. Sometimes we toast when we have a feast, right? We gather when we're able to gather around the table and we say, we'll raise a glass. And so I toast you. Here's to the beginning of a new possibility. Maybe one that you don't even notice yet. Like the seeds that are starting to grow underneath the earth. That are maybe starting to poke their fingers up and show a little bit of green. Or the buds on the trees that are just starting to come. To life. I found some crackers which make a great crunching noise. Before we know it, we've told our story and we've prayed and we've worked and we've feasted, and it's time to say goodbye. I think there's a song about that. It goes a little bit like this, and it's a song that we could sing both in English and I think Swahili. We will go with God, oh, 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 we will go with God. We will go with God, oh, 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 we will go with God. On this day of great joy, we will go with God. On this day of great joy, we will go with God. That's how the English goes. The fun part is to remember that oh ho ho is the same in both languages. So if nothing else, you can join in there. And so is the clap. You clap the same in almost any language as far as I know. So the words though when we switch to the other language are gum shla wenja bulo sizo hamba naye. Sizo hamba naye oh ho ho sizo hamba naye. Gum shla, and you kind of curl your tongue a bit and spit out the side of your mouth, which isn't a good thing to do maybe unless you're wearing a mask or you're in your own household. Gum shla wenja bulo sizo hamba naye. So here we go. We will go with God, oh ho ho, we will go with God. We go with God, oh ho ho, we will go with God. On this day of great joy, we will go with God. On this day of great joy, we will go with God. Sizo hamba naye, oh ho ho, sizo hamba naye. Sizo hamba naye, oh ho ho, sizo hamba naye. Gum sha wenja bulo, sizo hamba naye. Gum sha wenja bulo, sizo hamba naye. And so we will go with God. Sizo hamba naye. Wherever we go. And whatever this week holds, we remember that when we change the light, so that it isn't just in this one place and time, but it can spread out until it is in many places. And it will get thinner and thinner as it spreads out. We might not even see it anymore. But just because we can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. So thank you again for taking the time to be present, for taking time with the Holy. And hopefully you do that more than just when you watch this video. We look forward to that time when we can be with one another. But for now, God bless you and be well. Be safe and look after each other. Until we meet again.